Good morning, everybody. It is early as 5:20 a.m., 9/14/2022, in the good old beautiful Midwest Northeast of the United States. Couldn't tell you the longitude or latitude lines, but we're somewhere over here in the corner of the U.S., miles and miles away from where I grew up, and for a good reason. So anyways, yeah, I was just thinking about, well, not even thinking, I'm up early, activated my immune system. I'll tell you, you don't know what runs you. You don't know at all what runs you until you see what comes out of you. And I know it seems kind of weird, like, why are you always talking about your poop and all the stuff that you release? Because that is understanding what makes you work, what makes you tick. If you don't understand what comes out of you, then you'll never understand what goes in you. And then what will you be left with? Just living by by the moment, living by the seat of your pants. And okay, that is one way to live, but I don't know, man. I want to have a little more control over my life than that. And so if I know what's coming into my world and I know what's going out of my world, then I can see how those two need to be aligned and figured out and understood and managed. So that way, whatever comes in doesn't mess up what's inside, and then I'm not aware of what goes out. So I was watching a Netflix series called The Afflicted, The Afflicted and all that. And I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly what is going on in our society, is that we have so many people with so many invisible issues that some have been diagnosed and it's mainstream and it's recognized, and others, like what I had, PMDD. Oh, you have PMS or you have or PMS. Oh, well, suck it up. Everybody has it. What the fuck? Why are you so special? And you're right, I'm not special, but if no one's talking about it and they're all being told that they're stupid and they're not special and they should suck it up, then no one's going to really say anything about it until it becomes an actual problem, and then people start speaking out, and then they form groups. And you see there's PMS groups, PMDD groups. I've joined them before. But they all recommend the same thing. Here, take this herb, take this supplement, and call me in the morning type of shit. And, whatever. So, that docu-series was definitely what's all over in the holistic allopathic groups. And it's a major money-making venture. And people are chasing different cures all over the place. And they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars. The people that they're married to or linked with are just, it's destroying relationships. I'm thinking, like, my husband really literally dodged a bullet when I finally figured out my own health situation, because I was already doing what some of these people were doing, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements, spending so much time on Facebook, trying to figure out the right concoction. I mean, and I was getting rid of pots and pans and electronic equipment and this and that. And he was just like, what the fuck? So I know what my husband went through. I'm actually amazed that it didn't break us apart, though it was definitely leaning towards that. But luckily we were making enough money, a lot of money actually at the time that I was doing this, that he could afford this. But then as we came back up here, not in Florida, well, it was still spending money, but I mean, it wasn't nearly as much as I was spending when I was down there doing organic and all this other stuff and buying the supplements and oh my God. So anyways, and so it is chasing a dragon. It's chasing dreams that don't get realized. And I know people get happy when they have some kind of remission, as they're taking their antimicrobial, nasal inhalers, and they found something that was some kind of cure with some doctor or some allopathic or naturopathic, and they feel a little bit better, and they feel like they're sane again and all that. And I get that. I understand when you've been suffering so much and something works and you don't feel like crazy anymore, you welcome that. But again, that's the eye of the storm. It doesn't last long. And if it does last long, then it shortens your lifespan, because you got to pay the piper somehow. That monster is now punishing you for everything you've ever done to it. and did to your body for the last however many years. And so it's just Mother Nature calling in the loan. So, enjoy the eye of the storm, but eventually the storm is going to happen again, or you don't survive the storm when you finally have to see it. So I was just like, then I'm thinking like Dr. Phil, and I'm thinking all the different entertainment on TV. It really is entertainment and infotainment. It's just like science, uh, science experiments gone right or wrong, and people who haven't been programmed the way these people have been programmed, like myself. When I'm on, when I'm on Dr. Phil, everyone's laughing at me and saying I'm stupid, I'm this and that, and they don't realize I've been programmed in a totally different way. Though I didn't know how I was programmed or why, I just know that something was in me that I just couldn't figure out what it was, and the way I thought, the way I did things was so different, and so I was programmed differently than most people that were in my peer group. And so it was just like, and so when I was thinking like, oh, well, you can live to be 300 years old and you can regrow your arms and legs. And if if you're born without them, and I'm putting it out there, like, it's just pay, no big deal. And people are freaking out. And I just couldn't figure out why. I just could not figure out why. So I'm like, it's logical to me. I don't know why people are freaking out, but when you look at it logically, it makes sense. And so then, you go on Dr. Phil and they're all making fun of you, but that's the thing. That's other people who are programmed relatively the same, not understanding how another person's programmed. No different than when Dr. Phil has other people on there who says that they were pregnant for 3 years. Okay, they think they've been pregnant for 3 years. They're probably not wrong when you think about pregnancy. Pregnancy is either 9 months with the baby, or you can hold a bunch of mycoplasma that's replicating and it makes you feel like you're fucking pregnant. Okay, you saw what it's like for me when I'm purging out the demon and I'm feeding my body, and then I'm getting bloated, I'm feeling all these weird things, and if someone has been pregnant before and they feel like they're growing in a freaking demon, which is basically mycoplasma, then they're going to be like, well, I've been pregnant for 3 years, and that's how they're going to characterize it. So when you think about it technically, at the micro level, though the outcome is a little bit different, she isn't wrong, but those that have been trained that only pregnancy happens when you're carrying a fetus for only 9 months, they're not going to get the abstract part of it. So it's going to be a comical type of thing versus like technically she probably isn't wrong, and she's probably suffering from some major crazy ass disease, obviously, that is just messing with her brain and how her brain isn't compartmentalizing and separating the context. That, yeah, you could have a major disease that's replicating, like mycoplasma, like parasitic infections, like any kind of infection, and that is a type of pregnancy, but you have to be able to articulate that. And people can't, because they don't even know what they're made up of. They don't even care what's inside of their body, much less what their environment is and how to align themselves with the environment. And so, yeah, that's what infotainment is. Entertainment is just laughing at other people that have been programmed differently. And I get it. I mean, it's when I'm watching things on Netflix or on the news or just other people's Facebook, and they're suffering and they're this and they're that, and you can't help but be like, Jesus, man, you want to save them, you want to find some way to help them, but in reality, in all reality, you can't really help anybody. They have to help themselves. You can empathize and all that and sympathize and do the best you can to support them within your capability without destroying yourself. But in all actuality, there is nothing you can do for anyone except make them realize that they have a way out of the suffering without destroying themselves. And that is hard to impart when we are run by expectations, programming from the 1980s. Like, you're supposed to better yourself in our society. Well, yeah, but what does that mean? Material wise, what does that mean? Have is it making your house and everything look beautiful? But okay, but what about you? So while you're building your house and you're making your house look better, you're deteriorating. And so do we have it backwards, that maybe we should have our bodies be better and aligned and purging out the demons that are causing us the major suffering, and then we start building our houses to make them look beautiful, not like put so much of a facade to say, okay, the outside looks great, but when you go to the inside of the house, people are deteriorating. That's that's what we've been taught in the 80s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, is that, yeah, build the house and have a pretty garden and have nice cars and have, 2.5 kids that are in college and doing well and whatever with their families, but don't look at the inside of the house, because there's people suffering and they're on their oxygen machines, they're dealing with their cancer, disease, and chronic illness, they have domestic violence issues. They're suffering from just so many maladies, but hey, the house looks great on the outside. The roof looks wonderful. The garden looks beautiful. The grass is nice and cut and beautiful. I mean, that's kind of the backwards situation in the world that we live in. But can you tell someone that's been programmed to look only on the outside but not really on the inside, that maybe that is the cause of your suffering, is that you don't really care what's going on inside, but you only care what goes on the outside? And that's sad, but that is the world that we live in. That's what we've been raised with. Though some of us have purged out that programming. That I don't care having crazy nice clothes all the time. I have a bunch of them. My husband bought a bunch of clothes for me, and I appreciate that. And I'm wearing sweats. Yeah, I can go and wear the makeup and play the game of looking like, a doll that you see it's made up on all over Facebook. But that, to me, the whole beauty industry is just, it's not for me. It's just, I've never really worn makeup. I mean, I've worn makeup, but I've never really got into the whole beauty stuff. I mean, taking hours and hours to put on your face, hours and hours to do your hair, hours and hours to figure out your clothes. Where's the time to do other stuff? Oh, that's right. That's our society, is that they get you a compartmentalizing program to spend hours and hours on your hair, skin, and makeup, hair and makeup and clothes and wardrobe, and making your house look nice, but then you deteriorate on the inside, then that's how industries and companies run, and competition and innovation is you have 7.9 billion people worried about everything out there, and they don't care about themselves inside, and so you exploit their resources for a certain amount of time. And then when they have pains and stuff, you have like a hospital system that'll do whatever they can until they can't. And so, oh God, I mean, I can go on forever about that, but that's the world that we live in. And so I'm saying it doesn't have to be that way, that your suffering is because you were ignoring on the inside. You ignored the inside. It wasn't important. I mean, if it was, then it would just be very minor importance. And so, and I'm just like, that's right, okay. And then I'm just like, okay. So television, entertainment, infotainment is exploitation and capitalizing on science. Experiments gone right or wrong relative to intention. So those who have been programmed one way will not understand how another programmed person acts the way they do. And that is literally the division in our society. That's Democrat and Republican. When you have people in California raised one way, or many different ways, that are still somehow conjoined and aligned a little bit, though they have their own issues. Then people in Ohio that don't understand Californians and think we're crazy, And am I saying I'm a Californian? Well, I was raised there. That was predominantly what I was raised with. So yes, I am a transplant from California here in Ohio. And people think I'm crazy. I don't think they literally think I'm crazy, but they're like, she's a little bit different. And yeah, of course, I'm a little bit different because I was raised differently. I was in a different cultural, in a different socioeconomic area. And so it kind of is like, an anomaly. But okay. And so, but then take away culture and location and geographical type of thing. Now you're looking at how people were raised specifically by who and what, and their background and their culture and their lifestyle and their belief systems and their religion and the group of friends they hang out with, or family they hang out with, or associations. And then it becomes another war because there's so much division because we haven't been able to understand how other cultures work. Why is that? Well, lack of integration. I mean, when you're compartmentalized in a place like, let's say, Ohio or even California, and you never left California and don't want to venture into like Ohio or Louisiana or any other place, then you become, geocentric. And so anything that is totally different than California is going to be like the enemy. And so that's the thing. It's lack of integration. That's lack of tolerance. Obviously lack of education. And so, I made a point to go and visit everything in the U.S. as much as I can. I made a point to live in different parts, even though it was really crazy. And there was different catalysts that were running me at the time. But just the ability to go into another culture and sit in it for a minute, whether it's 6 months, 2 weeks, a year, to however long, you're integrating and you're seeing how other people live. You're understanding their culture, their lifestyle, their belief systems. And so you have a little more empathy, and you understand where they're coming from, and then maybe you have a little tolerance. I mean, that's supposed to happen when you visit different countries, different cities, different cultures. It's supposed to increase your tolerance to understanding the world that you live in, that they're not some, zombie that is weird, that is stupid. They're another person that has the same issues that you have, but they happen to react to them differently, or characterize them differently, or call them something different. And so there is a way to integrate the world by just having something like an internet, where you don't have to go physically into a culture, where it could be dangerous nowadays. Nowadays, do you really want to go into another culture that you're not familiar with all the frequencies and all the diseases that are running rampant? No. So then you go and feed your brain all the different cultures, all the different belief systems, all the different lifestyles. So that's how I'm able to advance so quickly with my information and learn things as quick, because I'm entertaining my brain with different types of thought processes. I'm reading things I ordinarily would not read, even if it didn't make sense to me. I tried to do that back when I was like maybe 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 years old, or my dad would take us to the library in our town, and I would go and try to read the congressional record. I mean, it was something like, why would I read the congressional record? I don't know, because it's something I never read before, and maybe challenging myself to understand something that I've never exposed myself to. Because what minor would go and read the congressional record? It was in the reference section, and we loved going to the library as kids, so that was what I did. Read the different industry magazines. My dad would read all the industry magazines, Science, Times, and engineering stuff, and we would go find all the different stuff that we were interested in, the kids' books and all that. So, just feeding your brain different information, and also going into different groups and seeing how they interact. Not trying to, I've made mistakes where I try to go in and change the group or change how they did things, and some are more tolerant than others. And I tried to do that this last time, and I realized, okay, this is not a group where you give them a solution to their problem. They're just saying, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem. There's a few solutions that people are okay with. I've put down my solution in the comments, but there is no allowance for putting solutions in actual posts. The posts are for, here's a problem. I got this done, and this is what happened. I got this done, this is what happened. And so assimilating to the different groups out there without trying to upset the homeostasis and upset the sanctity of a group is one of my challenges. But that is the tolerance that is trained when you're able to hold back your way of doing stuff and assimilate to something else for a minute. It doesn't have to be like all the time. It's not like you have to turn into them, but you understand. When you don't cross boundaries, you don't try to change someone's lifestyle belief systems. You can observe their page without trying to go and tell them they're right or wrong or whatever. You just observe it, and you're like, okay. And they're your friends, so if they value who you are or care about what you say or think that you have something credible to say, they'll pay attention to your Facebook on a periodic basis or a daily basis or whatever basis. And so you being friends with somebody is still an allowance, is still getting in their world without getting in their face. Okay? And that is a learned art, especially when you finally are able to articulate and you know the rights and the wrongs. You know I won't say rights and the wrongs. When you know what person's doing that is actually going to work against them later on, but you don't want to, again, try to convert them. You want to drop seeds in ways that are very indirect. Okay, very indirect. My mom's very direct. That's what made us just clash. Because I'm direct, so is she. That's where I got her from. So I had to learn not to be so direct. Okay, but anyway, so that's direct is great, but then not everybody can handle direct. So then you gotta soft pedal it, and that again is an art, a soft pedaling information once you become adept at understanding and putting things together. Okay, and so now it makes sense with the whole thing with Charles Manson. I knew he was probably some kind of LSD secret, top secret LSD agent. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but he was way too informed about so many things were happening right now back then. And he was articulate, he was hypnotizing. He definitely knew how to pluck the strings of the women around him, and he knew how to, yeah, to control people's emotions. And some people were turned off by him and were like, no, I'm getting away. Other people who had more, had a weaker, or not say weak, they were more susceptible to be hypnotized, more susceptible to be influenced because of they're lost. They ran away from home, from an abusive home. They needed to find something to make life worthwhile. And so he happened to be the thing that, filled in the holes, literally. Okay. And he understood the use of drugs, the LSD stuff. He had so much information, just even listening to him. When you actually think about it, listening to him, you're like, yeah, this dude was not just some random kid that was in a reformatory that was plucked off the street from an abusive home. No, he was mind controlled. He was made to be the way he was, and he went fucking crazy. And he went crazy. Okay? But, I came from Vietnam. You think I would have this demeanor? You think I would have this kind of tapping into a major aggressive intelligent potential? It was programmed into me. You couldn't get someone from Vietnam doing what I'm doing. First they have to learn the language. That right there, you see someone that even came from Vietnam here to America when they're like 12 years old, they still haven't lost the accent. Okay? And so you got to realize that people are programmed. They're programmed. Okay? And so though you can program yourself, it's just you have to really go through the pains, I'll tell you. Holy shit. And so it tastes so good. And so was Charles Manson a top secret LSD agent? I'm going to say yes, and he's not a snitch. And that was from that movie that I watched that is on my YouTube. Not on my YouTube, but on YouTube. That's on my page. Some guy, and I was half listening to it while I was going to sleep last night, because I went to sleep around 10. I did a video last night, it wasn't long, but it was definitely encapsulating stuff. And then after, I was like thinking, am I going to work? And then my dog was just like going in circles, and she's going through her stuff because of the frequencies. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to bed and just go to sleep, and then get up I got up at 4 this morning, and here I am. And I activated my immune system before I drank my coffee. So I was releasing a bunch of stuff, and it's amazing. There was so much mucus that was wrapped around I know it's kind of crazy, it's gross, but better than hearing about it than seeing it, right? And so you're just like, where the hell did all this mucus come from? But I'm telling you, that is part of the mycoplasma in the body. The fact that it's coming out that end, not this end, I'm fine with it. But it was still like I'm thinking what encouraged all the pushing of activation, the immune system activation. What was like causing all of that to just develop such mucus? And I think, well, it's probably inside my body anyways, but what activated it, I'm sure I had a little bit of Activia last night, which helped, encourage more of the gut to populate versus drinking milk. But I did have a bunch of Activia. And so there was releasing a bunch of stuff, and I'm just like, whoa. And you see that it's like, this mucus was actually wrapped around the poop. It was such a weird type of phenomenon. It almost looked like a bunch of white worms that were wrapping itself around brown things. And you're just like, that came out of my body, and it's just, it's a real trip to look at. And you're like, okay, well, imagine that's actually running you. That actually gives you your personality, your lifestyle, your belief systems. All of that in colonies in your body, controlling your hormones. That's literally the world inside your body, and you only get a glimpse of it as you're releasing stuff. And that's only scratches the surface of what goes on. Surgeons can kind of see what goes on, but still, they don't see everything. They only see whatever they're allowed to see as they're cutting a person open. But when you're actually seeing the stuff come out after your body released it and of what it once was and has been, you're like, all that mucus and stuff in your body probably looks like the worm colonies that are moving and stuff. You can only imagine, if you're able to see through your skin, what kind of life is going on, and watching it. And so anyways, that's all the programming from the T cell, B cell proteins. Okay, the T cell, the NK T cell, natural killer T cells that induce apoptosis and even autophagy, which is, there's degradation, but it's not all out destruction. And there's regulators that allow things to happen that don't completely destroy or program or whatever. But it's like, those are the pluses and minuses. And so what do you think? Okay, when a T cell is a regulator and a B cell is a regulator, it stops the destruction, or stops it doesn't go and program or destroy. It just regulates. It allows things to be as it is. And then there's T cells and B cells that don't allow things, and that is yourself. Because you are an antigen, you are a self-antigen, and so you have antibodies that protect you. And so when there's T cells that are coming in and protecting you, they don't attack they don't attack you. But when they attack you, it's because they've been programmed to do that because of all the therapies that people don't want to feel. And so then you literally have to get layer by layer to get down to your own immune system to protect you from things that are going to attack your self-antigen. Okay? And so that's what's all that mucus is. It's all the different antigen programming. And so that's really all the blood types. Okay, is the antigen programming. Surface marker antigen A, surface marker antigen B. They have a lot of kinetic energy, and you see different body sizes and different, intellectual capabilities from people who are type A and B. And then there's people who are type O that can then nurture in the intelligence. They don't have to have a chemical intelligence induced at birth. And so type O is not only strong and capable, and maybe not have as many of the antigen programming they have to deal with, but you can actually nurture in. I think that's what the experiment was, is that my parents were type A and type B. I'm a type O, okay, and so I wasn't biologically related to them, which means I didn't have their predisposed issues and or the access to the intelligence that they had because of their blood types. And so could they nurture in intelligence, nurture in beauty, nurture in whatever it takes to make it in the society at the time? And so if a woman isn't super smart and academic, well, then she's got to be beautiful because she's got something to a backup. She's got to have a backup plan. And so then being a wife and being a trophy wife and being arm candy and sexual, yes, is the backup plan. Because if you're not programmed in something, then how are you going to survive in this society that's programmed, that has all these different niches? You can't live off of mommy and daddy forever, right? And so then I was programmed to be smart, intellectual, and beautiful. Okay? And so that I can see, and I can have an appreciation for that. And then you're dealing with your own mycoplasma type of shit, that on top of that, health issues, let me tell you, it's a recipe of craziness. It really is. So, anyways, I don't know if I got on that tangent, so Charles Manson, he was definitely programmed. And he's not a snitch. So, yeah, I purged out a bunch of stuff on both ends, and you don't realize what's running you until you see it outside your body. That literally what goes on with humanity is they don't even know that they're being controlled by microscopic proteins programmed to do something, but they become too numerous and they overextend themselves. And so, yeah, when you're overly therapized, doing all the different drugs and therapies, internal, external, doing all the stuff that they were doing on that movie Afflicted, those proteins do turn into antibodies, and those antibodies work against you, and that's why people have all those diseases. and why they're going to all the holistic allopathic, because they have done so many cures and therapies that the body can't handle any more programming. They're glitching. And so the suffering of all humanity and literally everything they do or do not do is based upon microscopic proteins stuck in their colon. And again, you don't want to be doing so many enemas and colon cleanses like they're recommending in some of these movies, and because then you're doing everything that your body should be doing on the inside, you're doing it on the outside, and then when the body can't regenerate, because you're not regenerating, all you're doing is just getting rid of the things that are trying to get you to strengthen the body so it can get rid of it. Okay, so then you actually weaken your body by doing all the colon cleanses, the enemas, and all the things that are aggressive, because you have to allow those proteins to extend your life, the telomere extension, and then you have to allow the proteins to release. Okay, and so yeah, doing things that are manual through the holistic allopathic does shorten people's lives. They get their relief because they've been suffering, but at what cost? And at this point, they'll pay anything for the relief. Okay, they want their life back. I understand, but at what cost, and how long do you think you're going to have from doing that? And so the whole point of the JJ world is to purge out those beasts safely and effectively without taking away intelligence. And yeah, it'll be painful. And so all the different self-help groups and or organizations studying how to cure you or encourage stem cells, it's only temporary, if at all, and they make a shit ton of money. So I know people are trying to study stem cells, okay? And I had to look up stem cells. They come from the thymus, and they're basically immature cells. They are juvenile cells that people are like, oh yeah, that'll give you youth and vitality and all that stuff. But remember, you have parent cells that trained all of your different juvenile cells to do whatever, and then those juvenile cells want to grow up, and it's painful because growing up is painful. For you to be an adult was painful, okay? So how you got to be an adult was painful. So imagine what's like for the juvenile cells trying to grow up, and you're feeling the pains of growing up, of those cells growing up, and then you're trying to stop it. And so when someone is bringing up stem cells or learning how to manipulate stem cells in the medical system, you realize that there's parent cells that are still going to program, and you're still going to teach those stem cells, this is how you're going to grow up, because how I grew up, it's going to be painful. And then you're back to square one again. You're going to feel the pain again. How long will those stem cells, those juvenile cells, be a juvenile? Because remember, when kids are at a certain age and everything is great, but then as they keep growing up in different stages, it's painful. You can't keep a kid. That's why people like having kids at a certain age. Like, I wish I can keep you as a kid forever, because it's so much easier when you were like 2 years old. You were just running around and having energy and everything was great, and you weren't the terrible twos and all that stuff. But as soon as they, but then they hit a certain, point where then they're rebelling. They're going through all the different growing pains. It's difficult growing up. And so what the medical system is trying to do is freeze people in a certain stage of development that everyone loves, before the kid starts having their own mind. And so, and how long can you do that? Though, I mean, yeah, it's great for a short amount of time doing that, but then again, there's parent cells that are going to teach that stem cell that you gotta fucking grow up if you want to be part of our world, okay? And then that's when the cure wears off. When the kid grows up, when those stem cells start maturing, that's when the cures wear off. That's when the pain returns, because that's the pain of growth and evolution that people don't want to experience. And wow. So I know it's so exciting that people are at Stanford trying to study stem cells, but that's just false hope. That's false hope, because it's not going to last. But you make a shit ton of money, but it's not going to last. So relative to your lifestyle predisposed issues, the cures out there and the protocols out there are temporary, and they might last a few years, and they might last a few minutes. Anyways, and so I'm going to go and do my typing and stuff because it's perfect. It's quiet. My dog's relaxing and doing her thing. I'm happy with that. She's not active like we have been the last couple of days, and I'm feeling really good, and I have now narrowed everything down in that section that I wrote, because I'll tell you All those pages that I wrote a couple years ago, and they're still like in my folders, and I'm going like, what the hell? I am just now going like, I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm not even going to put in that part of the section of, the microbiome. I mean, I'll put in, yeah, your body's made up of viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria, but do I need to go in there and explain each one of them? No, you can go and Google them. I'll say, hey, I'll say all of these bacteria are messengers and support systems. They're messengers and support systems. They are an environment that keeps the balance. Yes, they have their specific jobs. Do I need to go ahead and outline every single job description of the virus or the parasite? No. Viruses are just programming. The parasites are there to help support the situation. When they become too numerous, that's an infection. Okay, the protozoa, another, one-celled, single-celled, whatever. Do you really need to know what they clean stuff up, they process stuff. All bacteria, it helps you process nutrients so that way your body can utilize it and extend your life. And so I'll say, like, do I need to bring in the old book? No, I don't. What you need to know is, this is what a virus is. It's mitochondrial DNA that program your body to do a specific thing. Where did the programming come from? Just look at the person over there. Just look at yourself. You've been programmed. Your mitochondrial DNA is going to go and seed somebody else. And if you're a man or a woman and it happens to go in the right place, you can have a baby or you can have a new virus that's going to program someone else to be a little bit different. And if they want to have a baby, there's that programming right there. And so there's no need to go into the nitty-gritty, gory details of everything when you can literally go and research the gritty details yourself, and I'll just give you the bigger picture. And then you can go in and play with the smaller picture. Okay? But I guess I had to write the smaller picture for me to understand the bigger picture. So that was more of an exercise for me and an exercise for you to go and figure out stuff and figure out how to put everything together and develop your own storyline, however you want to do it. All right, so this is for me, again, an exercise for myself, and you're getting the benefit. That's how I think the world should work. That you take care of yourself and let the world get the benefit. But if you don't take care of yourself, then you'll fuck up the world. And that's exactly what we're in right now. People are not taking care of themselves, and they're fucking up the world. All right, bye.